So Max, who are you?
I'm Max. I work on
Max.
Freedom Tech.
Work on Freedom Tech. Do you have a last
Exactly.
name, Max, or are you just Max?
I'm Max Hillebrand.
Max Hillebrand. Okay. And how did you get into Bitcoin stuff?
From the economic side of things.
Okay.
Always like to think about monetary science. And
So
then
scientist of money, so to speak.
exactly.
Cool.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then a friend of mine introduced me to Ubuntu back then and Linux.
Okay.
And that made me research what do Austrian economists think about free software.
Okay.
And
Oh, that's an interesting question.
yeah, exactly.
What did you find out doing this research?
A lot of them don't get it at all, which is why so many Austrian economists initially completely dismissed Bitcoin.
Interesting. So you mean when you say Austrian economists, you mean like living, breathing, current ones, not like historic research?
I guess a bit of both, but like for example, Murray Rothbard, one of the greatest economists
Okay.
ever, he only used a typewriter, right? He never used a computer in his entire life, even though they were around.
What period was he like writing from?
Yeah, like 60s to 90s, something like this. I think he died 93, or I don't remember exactly, but so he
was around, contemporary with the modern word processor.
Yeah, but he never used it himself, right? He was a technical Luddite, so to say.
Okay.
Which is interesting.
But still also a scientist of economy to some extent.
And a historian, a philosopher, ethical philosopher as well, like thinking about ethics, and especially monetary economist. Like he has the best insights on money that are 100% Bitcoiner thoughts.
Cool.
Basically, so
that's really cool.
Little pamphlets like "What has the government done to our money?" You know,
It's my favorite book.
this guy gets it.
Just listening,
Yeah.
When you say Rothbard.
And he has a great book that you would like, Education, Free and Compulsory.
Oh, that sounds good.
So this is maybe some
really
bitcoin++ themed things.
Oh, we haven't done an education edition.
Yeah, but you do educate people about Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
So he thought a lot about this as well.
Okay.
And yeah, but there's this Austrian economist called Stefan Kinsella.
Okay.
He is actually a lawyer, a patent lawyer, something like this.
Is he contemporary? Like he's living?
He's contemporary.
Okay.
He's an OG Bitcoiner.
Oh, wow.
Because he is one of the few economists who really understood free software before Bitcoin.
Interesting.
He wrote the book called Against Intellectual Property Rights.
Oh, okay.
Which is a must read. It's fantastic.
That
If any developer who is like, oh, I'm not sure if I should open source my code, I'm like, shut up, read this book, and then you will.
I feel like, it's kind of sad to say, but I feel like there are a lot of projects in Bitcoin right now, software developers that increasingly I talk to people and they're like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to open source this, or like just projects that are like half open source, or like they'll open source it later. Okay.
Yeah. It's so stupid. It's so stupid on so many levels.
Mandatory reading in order to commit code in Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And what was the book name again?
Against Intellectual Property by Stefan Kinsella. It's for free online, obviously. And I think the audiobook as well, on a podcast. So just search for Against the Intellectual Property on podcast, and I think you will get it. This book really inspired a lot of people, including, for example, the Mises Institute.
Okay.
Has all of its books, audiobooks, PDFs available for free online.
Cool.
Mises.org is an insanely big library of free books and resources. That's where I got all of my economics education, basically. Forget university, just go to Mises.org.
That makes sense.
Okay. And you read there, you'll learn so much. And so after the first time I heard about Bitcoin was before I fell down the free software rabbit hole.
Right.
And I totally dismissed it. But part of the steps was go to Mises.org. What do they write about Bitcoin? And they're like, oh yeah, it's backed by nothing, blah, 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 right? All the kind of standard arguments.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And I was like, okay, boring. If those guys don't like it, I don't like it. I don't need to look into it, kind of.
Yeah.
Then I fell into free software rabbit hole, installed Linux, really thought deeply about what is free software about. And not free, not as in freedom, but not as in gratis, but as in freedom, right? The freedoms of the end user. Read Against Intellectual Property, then found an Andreas Antonopoulos video.
Okay.
The Bubble Boy and the Sewer Rat.
I haven't seen that one. Okay. All right.
And that sealed the deal.
And that sealed the deal. So you kind of started on this little conversational trail by saying you started asking Austrian economists what they thought about Ubuntu or Linux project. What did you find out? Like, did you actually ask people, or? as a research project?
It was more like see what the literature says about it,
Okay.
right? And but definitely at that point, Against Intellectual Property was already out, which I think transformed Austrian economists' thinking about the subject quite thoroughly.
Oh, that's fun.
It's a really like seminal book, or a really conclusive book of information is non-scarce. There's no rivalrousness, right? Which means there is no problem that we need to solve. The
Got it.
property rights is a solution to a problem. The problem is that there's a potential conflict over who can allocate scarce resources.
Got it.
Because
Okay.
a scarce resource can only be used by one person for one use case at one time.
Right.
Right? So there's a potential of conflict. And we can solve this. The only logical, coherent solution to this problem is property rights.
I see.
Meaning the person who creates it or homesteaded it, he owns it. Right? He can decide how to use these resources.
Right.
And he can transfer this ownership via contractual right. Right? You can sell it, you can gift it, etc. That's a super solidly sound solution to an extremely complex problem.
Right.
But with ideas, because they are non-scarce, we don't need to allocate them. Like I can speak the words, I can share the code or the PDF, and I don't lose anything. I don't have to give it up when giving it to someone else.
There's no sacrifice of the self in the sharing of the idea.
Exactly.
I see. And since there's no sacrifice or resource contention required, you can
we
give
can
it away
all have the
freely
code.
with no loss.
Exactly, right? Especially now in the digital age, where we can replicate information ad infinitum to 8 billion people with basically the click of a button.
Right.
And sure, in order to transfer digital information, which is non-scarce,
Right.
we need physical computers, physical wires.
Right. There's some required resources.
Which means we definitely have to have property rights in computers,
Interesting.
in internet
So,
infrastructure.
Like paying for CPU cycles, for example.
Exactly,
or
that's a scarce
bandwidth,
thing.
that
A CPU can only do one computation at one time.
That's right.
Right? And so there is scarcity in cyberspace, in some aspects of, or like in the, cyberspace is always tethered to meat space.
Right.
And in meat space, we always have scarcity.
Right.
And that means that there are some aspects of cyberspace that, because of its tether to meat space, are actually scarce.
Right. I mean, Bitcoin is a good example of this, right?
Bitcoin is really interesting because if you think about Bitcoin, the scarcity is the double spending problem.
Yes.
Meaning one UTXO can only be spent in one transaction at one time once, right?
Right.
So
there's scarcity that way. There's also scarcity in terms of like hash power that gets burned, right? But maybe that's more of a different.
It's like you can only hash one message at a time,
right.
ultimately, right? And you cannot, you have to do that work, right? You don't get it out of nothing. The work has to be applied in order to get a resolution.
Right. Well, it's more that the existence of a work is proof that real world resources were burned in order to find and produce a scarce digital asset, right?
Yeah.
So increasing the block space or adding more block space to Bitcoin is basically a proof of burn of electricity at scale. I mean, and the scale of that depends on the number of people participating in discovering new block space, right?
And
really different.
the another scarcity in Bitcoin is who gets to decide what is the next block.
Yes.
Because only one person can write a block at one time.
That's right.
Right? We don't have a graph, we have a chain of blocks. So
no forks allowed.
Exactly. and so there's a rivalrousness of who can write the next block. And since there's no monopoly, meaning anyone can join the market of being a block producer, we have a denial of service or a spam problem. Right? That anyone could write as many blocks as he wants.
In theory, yes.
In theory, and that would be a hell to validate and to get into a canonical chain.
Right.
So we need to rate limit the creation or the finding of a person who can create a new block.
Right.
And we can either do this with some, central authority kind of choosing, okay, you're the next guy, you're the next guy.
Which is how some systems work, right? They send it to a central processor, and they decide what the canonical order of events happening in cyberspace is, right?
So I guess the first solution, and that's what Chom figured out, is a pure monopoly. There's like one server that chooses the next block, which transaction came first.
Right.
And it's not possible for a new market participant to come and provide the service.
Right.
So that's a monopoly in praxeological thought.
Exactly, yeah.
But we want to decentralize it fully, right? So we still could have one server that says, okay, you get to choose the next block.
Right.
But
leader election.
Leader election, something like this, right?
Computing,
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that still has a central entity that could be corrupted.
It's like democracy, sorry.
Yes. And so what Satoshi figured out, we just do a lottery basically. We do proof of work, and we can adjust the difficulty such that we have sufficient time in between finding a new leader,
Right.
such that we won't have verification impossibilities, right? 10 minutes, 1 megabyte, sounds
So
like we
everyone
can
who's
do that.
participating has a chance to verify that the latest block space that was created is valid, right?
Yeah.
And attempt to find the next block space on top of it to some extent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to some extent, like already 1983, Xiaomi and eCash, we had digital payments.
Right. But they were centralized.
They were centralized in many aspects. Right. There was one entity that kind of defined the protocol, the server, who could choose how many tokens to issue, for example.
Right, exactly.
There was one entity that enforced double spending, right? And it checked for double spending and enforced double spending.
Right, and that's the valuable part of digital currency is that there's only one, each token is only valid once, right?
Yeah. It needs to be scarce.
Right,
Money needs to be scarce. Money that is not scarce is not money.
Right.
Right, that's just an idea then. And we need money. But money in cyberspace, in a realm where things are not scarce in the first place, is really, really tough to create.
Right.
Unless we have some protocol for this. And the easy ways to do protocols is to make them centralized. But then we can easily shut them off. So, which means they would not exist in longevity. And so money should be saved for the future. So it inherently needs to be there in the future. And if there's uncertainty, if your money exists in the future, then it's bad money. Money's job is to remove uneasiness. To be able that, you know, hey, I have something today which I can use to trade in the future. And if there's inherent uncertainty in the money, then it's a bad money. Right?
It's not a good money.
So now Satoshi's task was to split up the monolithic service provider of Xiaomi and eCash into different kind of theoretical or ideological entities. Right, like a block producer, right, a block validator, a transaction maker, right? The protocol kind of the definition, right? Like these things were all separated into its own ideological bucket, and then even more so, remove any monopoly for each and any one of these things. So there's not just one block producer, there's an open market of block producers.
Yes.
There's not just one guy who decides the rules. Every full node decides those rules, right? And every full node verifies that the rules was upheld, and every full node enforces that the rules were upheld.
Independently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I think one thing that's really interesting about block production in Bitcoin is that you might have in the past contributed a lot of resources and found a lot of block space, created a lot of blocks for Bitcoin. But if you stop mining, if you stop pointing resources and burning resources to produce new blocks, you basically fall out of the power process or the governance process of Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
So historic power, historic proof of burn, which is like pointing resources at hashing and being able to find a block, being lucky enough to find a block, is no prediction of future power, so to speak.
Exactly.
So every new block is a new contest, right? And new entrants can enter at any point. Of course, your relative power, to some extent, your relative hash power, the number of hashes you're producing or participating, almost like the number of dice rolls you're making to try and win the raffle, is a product of maybe some past decisions you made that have led you to acquire the resources, like miners and cheap energy contracts, such that you're able to continue participating in the lottery. But over time, anyone can plug in a miner tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Or anyone can unplug their miners tomorrow, and it will no longer be choosing the new transactions or have any possibility, I should say, since it is a lottery. There's no guarantees you'll be able to find a block. Which I feel like that level of flexibility and like the requirements that you continue to burn resources and contribute power to the network in order to, like, I would say, retain a political voice. If you think of finding new blocks as sort of the only way to have a vote in what Bitcoin, that's maybe controversial, but I think it's a very interesting system. Proof of work is very interesting.
And it's super unique and quite different to, for example, proof of stake.
Yes.
You touched of it on a little bit, but if we assume, like, so proof of stake, the lottery tickets are not compute power, but coins in the system.
Right.
And so if we're in a theoretical scenario where one person has 100% of the coins,
exactly,
we cannot dethrone this attacker.
Right.
because nobody can buy voting tickets.
The
Because
network effect, so to speak, of who owns the coins. They get the next round of coins that are issued accumulate to the biggest holders.
Exactly.
And so their position only becomes more entrenched,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah. And that's why you cannot bootstrap a new blockchain system with proof of stake.
Right.
Because the first person would have 100% of the votes
Right.
and just vote more money for himself.
Right.
And that was the genius of Satoshi's proof of work. There is no natural monopoly, even in the extreme case that only one person has all of the resources.
Right.
And we've had this only once in Bitcoin, at the very beginning,
By
at
all the
Genesis.
resources, you mean necessarily like all the coins?
Existingly deployed resources. Like Satoshi was the only one who used Bitcoin at the very first.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So he had 100% of the hash rate. He had 100% of the coins.
He did.
Right? But still, he could not enforce his monopoly and prevent other people from coming in.
Right.
Right? So even in the future, if the mining pools become gigantic and like one mining pool has 98% of hash rate or 100% of hash rate, it's fine. We can still defect at that point and produce our own hash.
Oh, and nothing can prevent you from buying like one of these bit axes or like small home miners and plugging it in. And even though your chances of maybe finding a block comparatively to the other resources is minuscule,
but there's a chance.
There's a chance. You're still participating. You're still burning resources. So it's proof of burning. Maybe that, I know that's not a way people usually talk about it, but
well, and I think it's more like it basically it's a spam or like an impersonation thing, right? Like the proof of work is about access rights to becoming the next block producer.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's an open contest.
Yeah.
Which is rare, I feel like, in politics these days.
Yeah, usually there is strong monopolies that you have to ask for permission before you can provide a service.
Parties, right? Political parties, maybe? Or is there something else you're thinking of as a
I mean,
analog?
you know, even if you want to become a hairdresser nowadays, you need a license to cut someone else's hair.
That's a really good point.
That's a monopoly. The state has a monopoly on allowing people to become hairdressers.
Right.
Which is ridiculous. That's not a free market.
It's not a free market.
A free market would mean that anyone can provide a service and anyone can acquire that service. And as long as the two consulting adults meet for trading, that's a free market, which we don't have that much in today's world.
No, we don't.
And Bitcoin is one of the few that actually exists, where nobody can stop you from becoming a block producer. Nobody can stop you from being a block validator and enforcer running your own node.
Right.
Nobody can stop you from being a holder of coins, right, that you mine yourself, or nobody can stop you from trading your coins for something else.
For goods or offering services in exchange for Bitcoins.
And you don't need a license, which means you don't need to ask for permission. And that's what makes Bitcoin truly special today.
Yeah, it is truly special. So what projects are you, so Bitcoin's a truly special project. You got into it from the economics angle or the, what do we call it, scientist of monetary policy.
Yeah.
Your first career, or the first thing that I knew you for was you were doing there was a podcast I feel like we did way back in the day.
Many, probably.
Well, it's the Lightning Conference, and you were working on a project then called Wasabi, right?
So my very first entry into being helpful in Bitcoin, let's say, was about podcasting. So I joined the World Crypto Network.
That's it, yeah.
And I started with just doing economic explanations, right? That's what I knew. That was like my old world knowledge that I could apply in the new world, so to say.
Cool, okay.
And then I quickly got fascinated by cypherpunk ideas. And so I wanted to learn more. And that's a great hack. If you want to talk to cool people, start a podcast. Because if you would call up like a famous person, be like, hey, I'd like to talk to you. Can I like just call you, hang out? They're like, you're weird. Please go away, leave me alone. But if like, hey, I have this podcast, I would love to invite you. Like, yeah, sure, let's go.
There you go.
So you can talk to the coolest people by just having a podcast, which is kind of, I think, your hack.
I'm calling it an interview series, but I think it still applies, yeah.
But you applied the same idea in Meetspace. You're like, hey, would you like to come to my house and hang out? Or could I come to your house and hang out? You're like, you're weird. It's like, hey, I would like to invite you to my conference.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, sure.
Yeah, Bitcoin++ is very much about how do I get all these cool people to come tell me what they're working on at scale in one place.
Yes.
And then they get to tell everyone else what they're working on. And it seems that's like quite valuable for the ecosystem, I think, and all.
It is.
So, yeah.
So that was a cool hack that I
effect.
really enjoyed.
Right, yeah. So what did you do after World Crypto Network?
Then through these podcast series, I found like 1,001 amazing projects.
Oh, okay.
And I found projects like Wasabi Wallet, right? BTC Pay Server,
Yeah.
Cold Card,
Okay.
Novel, like all of these.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to help out. I'm not a coder, still not am. And so realized quickly that there's a lot of other stuff that needs to be done other than writing code.
That's very true.
And so I started with the documentation side of things.
Okay.
Made a lot of tutorial videos.
Oh, okay.
Wrote actual documentation. Translated some things to German as well. And in order to do that properly, I just jumped on developer calls, ultimately, specifically with Wasabi.
Okay. How did you find the developer calls? Like, how was that something that you figured out was happening?
That's a good question. I guess I organized that. I don't remember exactly, but I think I was like, hey, let's just jump on a weekly call or something like this.
Okay, so you can almost like naturally, I would say, almost slid into product management a little bit of like, how do we get these people working together around a project and like pointing in the same direction, maybe?
Yeah, exactly.
And weekly, or I don't know how often they were. Weekly calls is a great way to do that.
Yeah.
For a project.
And that then went into product management, especially because I was using the tech a lot, so I could provide good feature requests and bug reports.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I was also onboarding a lot of people. I was like the support channel, was in Telegram.
There you go, yeah.
Asking all the questions. And I got really tired of answering the same question many times. So I wrote documentation.
There we go.
So whenever a new question came in, instead of responding in the chat, I took the question, put it on the documentation, responded there, and then sent a link in the chat,
brilliant.
like, here's documentation. And in the future, I could just send the link.
Oh, that's really nice.
So Wasabi documentation is super thorough because
that's cool.
of that.
What system did you use to build that? Was there like an existing...
I forgot the first version that we're
WordPress
using, but we are using WooPress now.
Okay.
And here, again, I didn't know how to do it myself, so I got other people involved. And for example, Dennis Reimann, BTC Pay Server contributor. I nerd sniped him to help me set up that documentation.
I mean, that's great product management happening right there, getting people helping you out, contributing work,
Yeah, and so because of the podcast, I had a pretty big network eventually, and could find the right people for the right job. So just making people kiss, ultimately, was also really, really valuable. Really
Very
fun.
Cool. So you worked at Wasabi for a while. Mm-hmm. Wasabi shut down. Is that right?
ZK Snacks shut down. So
ZK Snacks shut down. Okay.
Wasabi is free and open source software for a desktop wallet with a backend server, right? And both client and server were free and open source. The server was run from the beginning by a company that was created specifically for this purpose called ZK Snacks.
All right.
And the server had a wallet synchronization backend, which was privacy preserving. We implemented block filters, BIP 158. Not the actual official standard. We did our own custom stuff because there wasn't a BIP at that point.
I see.
So also the things like, the exchange rate, fee estimation, these type of wallet service things.
Yeah.
But then it had the CoinJoin coordination service, which is a private transaction coordination service, which we innovated as well. And that was the moneymaker, so to say. There was a fee associated with this. And the company...
Payment for services, kind of like...
Exactly.
The service was privacy, right? Or coordination, maybe?
Coordination, yes. I would say access rights... managing access rights to a transaction or to a PSBT bulletin board while protecting against denial of service and spam.
Oh, okay.
Like, so protecting, granting access to a limited space and ensuring that spammers do not get access is a scarce service provided in cyberspace.
Yeah.
Right? There is scarcity. True. Either you're in the club or you're not.
Yeah.
And either you allow the spammers in or you don't.
Right.
So there's rivalrousness in the sense of transactions can only be so large, and we actually hit like maximum transaction sizes.
That's interesting.
Right? So
that's a big problem.
There is a scarcity aspect, and whenever there is scarcity, there is a price, meaning we could charge a service for it, a service fee for it. And so this made the company quite profitable, and we could scale. At our peak, we were like 40 people working on it full time.
That's a big project.
Yeah, and without any funding. We never raised money, we just got money from users.
Real independent, like bootstrap, sustainable project.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Which means we couldn't scale very fast, very quickly, because nobody was using it. There was not much value in it. But gradually, more and more users came. We made more and more revenue.
Network
and that could
effects.
mean we could pay more and more for devs.
That's cool.
So that was really, really fun. Unfortunately, we had to shut down that company just for legal uncertainty and
around the
state
service that
level
you're
attacks.
providing.
Exactly.
Right.
That's the really unfortunate thing, that even if you have a service that is absolutely legal, but highly undesirable for the powers to be,
Oh, interesting.
it's a scary place.
That is interesting. And so rather than expose yourself to the risk of, was it legal risk you guys were worried about? Was it like jail time? Like what was the...
I wouldn't even say legal risk per se, because if you look at the law book, it was 100% clear-cut legal.
I see.
It was more like the indirect pressure that governments and nation states can apply very well to make your life miserable.
Did they actually apply that, or was this like a... Oh, they were applying it.
Yes.
So there was some pressure, and you guys decided rather than continue to face the pressure.
There was pressure quite early on, and what worried me most was the volatility to the upside of the pressure. Like it kept escalating.
Oh, I see.
And get more intense and more frequent.
What kind of consequences did that have for you guys? Like, was this like, when you say pressure, is it like people were following you home? Like there were possibility your, like, I don't know, visas would get revoked, or you'd end up on a list, like...
Yes, contributors to the project who went to America got held at the border.
I see.
Right. A lot of weird encounters at Bitcoin conferences.
Interesting.
Where I'm pretty sure they were spooks.
Okay. So you get a good feel for what you think that feels like? Yeah. Okay.
Bank accounts were closed, not just of the direct contributors to the project, but their families as well.
Interesting. Okay.
Addresses of parents were doxed, and kind of with the intent of, hey, you know, like, we know where you live, we know where your parents live.
Right. Intimidation, basically.
Intimidation, yeah.
Intimidation, cutting off access to resources like banking.
Google accounts were compromised and subpoenaed, right, which we find out years later.
Wow, okay, because they don't have to tell you that they're doing that.
Exactly. So there's just a lot of pressure of, hey, we really don't like what you're doing.
And they let you know, that's interesting. Think about your actions. Is this something you want to keep doing?
Yeah, exactly.
And so the end result was you guys were like, actually, maybe not. This is open software. Someone else can provide this service. There's no requirement that you guys, ZK Snacks as an organization, continues to provide it. And so you guys shut down a year ago, 2 years ago? I forget how long ago that was.
Almost 2 years ago.
And since then, Wasabi still exists, right? Like someone else runs a coordinator service, or are there more than one coordinator service that's run? Okay.
The backend was always open source, right, from the very beginning.
Right.
So people were already running other coordinators back then, not so much. But then when we actually shut down, the community stepped up and we're like, no, this is a service that should exist. And so people kept running it. Also the wallet synchronization backend is being worked on decentralizing as well.
Cool. Okay.
So now that we have BIP157, BIP158 block filters in Bitcoin Core as well.
Is that the same as Neutrino?
Yeah, kind of. Like in theory, yes. So Neutrino was the brand name of the LND implementation, or Bitcoin implementation.
I see, okay.
BTCD implementation.
BTCD, yeah.
We had our own kind of custom hack in Wasabi.
Okay.
And then Bitcoin Core made their own kind of custom thing according to the BIP.
But the one that Bitcoin Core did is documented in the BIPs, and so that's a documented one that you could then adjust to. Okay.
Yeah, and we kind of made it a bit custom because we didn't need legacy addresses, because Wasabi was SegWit only.
Okay.
Because one of the many things that SegWit enabled was not just enabled the Lightning Network, it also enabled CoinJoins.
Interesting.
A lot of people forget
this. I didn't know that. Yeah, that's interesting.
This is why SegWit is so huge. It did not manage to solve scalability via Lightning. It also managed to solve privacy.
Interesting.
And Taproot, in fact, managed to solve the security of privacy.
Right.
With Taproot, it's finally possible to use hardware wallets to sign CoinJoin transactions.
Interesting.
It wasn't possible before. It was extremely difficult and costly before then.
I see. Okay.
So like the recent upgrades that we did were highly beneficial for privacy.
Did you guys move to Taproot only?
So as Taproot was being developed, and we were talking with the Trezor guys on how can we sign CoinJoins in a hardware wallet, they figured out that, hey, there's a big bug that would make it not great. Taproot even didn't solve it back then. So they made some contributions to the BIP process back then and be like, hey, if we do this little tweak, That would be much better. I think it was a commitment to the input script keys.
Yes, that's
something
right.
like this.
Because we have the same problem on interactive transaction building in Lightning.
Which is a coin join,
It
right?
is a coin join.
Or multi-party transaction is the nice word to say.
It's
And specifically what you can do with this taproot trick is that you can prove to yourself that out of these 100 inputs, these 3 inputs are your inputs, and these 97 inputs are provably not your inputs.
Oh, I see.
Right?
Okay.
So you can prove a negative of you don't own these inputs.
Okay.
In theory you can't prove a negative, but you can prove it to yourself. If you're the one who generates the proof and verifies the proof, you can actually prove a negative.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is like a philosophical mind blow. And so that was possible thanks to Taproot. And so the Trezor integration of the Wasabi CoinJoin protocol was Taproot only.
Yes.
But then Wasabi Legacy was SegWit only. And so we wanted to merge the anonymity set of Wasabi and Trezor users.
Got it.
And so at this point, we integrated both SegWit and Taproot in Wasabi, and we just flipped a coin for every output created of some will be Taproot, some will be SegWit.
Interesting.
Which means that now if you see a Taproot output, you can no longer for sure say that this is a Trezor coin.
Got it.
Right? This could be a Wasabi coin too.
I see.
Yeah. And BTC Pay Server also implemented Wabi-Sabi. Right? So this was actually then a huge achievement of Wabi-Sabi is no longer a thing that Wasabi does.
Right.
It's actually an industry standard that with 3 implementations.
Cool.
But unfortunately, due to the whole government pressures, Trezor removed their integration.
Interesting.
Yeah, and
oh wow, okay.
And because we shut down our profit-making arm, we could no longer provide financial incentive for cooks to keep building on the BTC Pay Server part.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's kind of in an unmaintained limbo.
Interesting.
So there was a huge hit, like an insane hit.
To the ability for that that particular protocol.
Yeah.
To proliferate, I guess, or stay maintained even.
Yeah, it still is being maintained, which is great. Wasabi added a silent payment donation flow into the wallet.
Oh, okay.
So you could donate directly to the developers privately, which a lot of people did, thankfully.
Oh, that's cool.
And
okay.
so this keeps the guys paid,
that's cool.
which is fantastic.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by BTC++, the premier technical conference series for Bitcoin developers. BTC++ is not your typical Bitcoin conference. It's a world-class gathering of engineers, hackers, and builders focused on the cutting edge of Bitcoin development. From protocol research to Lightning, smart contracts, covenants, privacy tools, and beyond, BTC++ dives deep into the work that's shaping the future of Bitcoin. Join us for our next event in Riga, Latvia on August 7th and 8th, focused on Bitcoin privacy, and see all our upcoming events across the globe at btcplusplus.dev.
So ZK Snacks shut down 2 years ago. Have you been working on Wasabi or Wabi-Sabi things since then, or are you looking for new projects? I've seen you've been helping out with user testing on white noise here at the Oslo Freedom Forum.
Yeah.
What kinds of things are you focused on these days?
Well, I was pretty happy with the state of Wasabi and Wabi-Sabi. I really think we solved blockchain layer privacy. And so this was the huge thing that I wanted to solve. And for me, this project is kind of done. And it was important that Wasabi survives. And to some extent, ZK Snacks and the people deeply involved in ZK Snacks, walking away from the project was required for it to ensure that it stays alive.
Right? I see, yeah.
And it's just being maintained by other people. Like, if Satoshi would have still been around, then nobody would have stepped up.
Right. It wouldn't have found it. Well, yeah.
Maybe yes, maybe no. It's difficult, but
yeah.
It's good for the decentralization of the project if the main people involved eventually walk away.
Right.
And if it's a good project, then it will survive. Right?
I see.
If nobody cares, then it dies, and probably it should die at that point. Right?
Yeah.
But people care, which is great. And so now I'm happy to work on some other freedom tech, which is cool as well. Big fan of Nostr. Been following this since inception, basically.
Right, yeah.
And making sure that project is secure and private is quite important. And so this is where white noise comes in. Nostr direct messages are badly broken. The first draft of it, or version of it, NIP4, was actually leaking private key material, right?
Was that the one that, there's a bot that will send out a notification every time I send a DM? It's basically saying Nifty's talking to so-and-so.
Well,
Is that what you're talking about, or even worse? Like,
that's already bad, right?
Okay,
There's
yeah.
no metadata privacy. Anyone
Right.
can see who you're talking to, how often,
Yeah.
how many messages, and when.
so they can't read the
Scary
messages,
shit.
but they can see that I'm communicating.
Yeah,
It's
which
like-
is enough. Like the
kind
NSA
of
said,
funny,
we
you
kill
can, like-
people on metadata.
That's
like,
true. I
we
mean, it's
don't
kind
need
of
to know
funny.
what
You can
you're
be like, if
writing
I've been
about.
spamming you with messages, you can like see that, like, you know, Nifty sent more messages to Max, and Max has sent back to Nifty, you know, whatever. Like, this is an
Exactly,
example
exactly.
of it.
So, but even worse, the NIP4 had some bad cryptographies, like a roll your own crypto type of
Oh
thing.
no, okay.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
so
impressively
there was like
embarrassing. Right.
gradual private key material released with every
Fascinating.
message.
Okay.
I was just
Oh,
like,
wow.
oh shit. So we fixed that with NIP44.
Okay, so it went
That's
from
an-
NIP4 was the first draft.
Yes.
Bad.
Bad. Don't like. Please don't use
Don't
it.
use NIP4.
Kick it out of your software.
So then next came NIP44.
Which is actual cryptographers. You
Okay,
know,
so
real peer
professionals
review,
in the room,
real
gotcha.
auditors. Yeah, the adults are here now.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, got it. Okay.
which means it's way more complicated, of
Oh,
course.
I see.
And that at least fixes the private key stuff. Like,
Got it.
it's secure to use now, but it does not fix the metadata of who you're talking to. So
So you can still see that I'm sending you
yeah,
messages. Okay.
exactly. So then what we did was NIP17 gift wraps,
Okay.
which basically means I send you a message, right, and I sign it with my private key, but so that you know that the message actually comes from me. But I don't put this event directly on the blockchain. I make another wrapper of encryption around that, and this outer layer, the gift wrap, I actually sign with a random private key,
Oh, I see.
right? So because Nostr accounts are no longer username, password, phone number, we can just spin up new accounts as often as we want.
With any
Just a new key.
key, right?
So I create an ephemeral key, I sign the outer layer of the event,
I
and I
see.
put
Like an
that
onion.
on relays, like an onion,
Yeah.
exactly. And now people know that Nifty received a message
But
at
they
this
don't know
time,
from who.
but they don't know from whom. Which is great for outer privacy, horrible for spam attacks,
I see.
because now the spammer can just send you a million encrypted onions, and you
Right.
have to decrypt them all to then see, oh, there's junk in here.
And decryption takes some CPU cycles, so
Exactly.
that might be quite expensive.
Yeah, especially on phones, right?
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
that's a bit
That's
of
why
a
my phone
downside.
gets hot sometimes when I open Nostr clients
Yeah.
or unrelated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nostr is very inefficient, which makes it resistant.
Right.
But you kind of have
Trade-offs.
to pay a bit for the freedom.
Battery life really is how that shows up, right?
Yeah, yeah. But we all carry battery banks nowadays.
It's
So
true. A little bit of heat output, yeah.
yeah,
It's really
yeah.
thinking. Interesting. Okay.
Um,
So NIP17 that's the latest and greatest hotness. Is that what White Noise is using?
No.
Oh, okay.
Because in NIP17, the downside is still people know that you got messaged, right?
Right, that's true.
And
From someone, but we don't know who.
yeah, and it's also not really addressing group messages, because
that's true.
if I want to send a group message to like 10 people, what I could do with NIP17 is I encrypt for each one's public key the same message, and I
Right.
send. But then that means I need to encrypt something 5 times.
Right,
You guys need to decrypt something 5 times,
right.
and I could send selectively different messages to you,
Yes.
right? So you don't know what the other people received.
Right.
Which in a group chat could actually be quite dangerous, right?
Oh.
If I say, hey, we meet, here, and to the other guys I say, we meet here, and
You have no idea that you've been singled out to be told to go somewhere else.
Exactly.
And maybe the secret police are waiting for you there.
Exactly.
And everyone else is on a boat having a great vacation. Yeah, who knows? Okay.
Exactly, right? So and another issue is that we're all encrypting stuff to your NSEC, like to your NPUB, right? Which is your long-lived identity,
Got it.
which you're putting like 100 shady apps from weird developers, right? If one of these
I mean,
developers,
speak for yourself there, Max. I don't know. Yeah, okay.
maybe one of those developers is malicious,
Right.
right? He sends the NSEC home, and now he can quietly listen to each of your messages,
Oh, I see.
Right.
Okay.
And you don't even know that you were compromised, right?
Got it. And so basically what Max is talking about is in Nostr you have a private key, and that private key allows you to be yourself or represent your account on any of an application. So there's a lot of Nostr apps that you want to represent, have your own avatar and your character and your profile, but that means you have to load up your secret key generally so you can sign messages that you produce from that account. And there's a bunch of these apps that you generally put the same secret key into all of them. And if one of those developers decides to steal it, then they could potentially look at all your messages.
Exactly.
If that's what we were using to do private messaging, which
Exactly.
is most of the solutions that we've talked through are all that one secret key, right?
Exactly. And so a solution for this is to not use the same key for decrypting your messages all the time, right?
Oh, okay.
So we basically create a new encryption key for each message that we receive.
Got it. Okay.
And those are not hierarchically deterministic, like in Bitcoin,
Right.
Because in Bitcoin we want to use a new address for each payment.
Right. You kind of end up with a tree, and all of them are related to each other.
Yeah.
And if you have the seed of the tree, you can like regrow the tree.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
Which is great for money because we really want to make sure we're not losing money.
Right.
But
Makes
it has
sense.
the same problem. If someone ever gets your 12 words, like your master seed word, they get all of the transaction that you send into the wallet, not just now, but in the future too.
Right. They can recreate the entire tree of where money is and might end up.
So for message encryption, we specifically do not want to have hierarchical deterministic wallets or deterministic wallets, like in general.
So that way, if anyone gets your seed, they can't figure out where your messages are.
Exactly. They cannot. So if someone gets one private key from you,
Right.
they cannot decrypt your past messages because they use different keys.
Right.
And they cannot encrypt your future messages.
Or decrypt
Decrypt your future messages, yes.
So all they can see is maybe the handful of messages that were encrypted at that specific point in time where you're using that private key.
Exactly, yes. So this is what's known as a double ratchet protocol.
Okay.
It's basically a little bit like a Diffie-Hellman key exchange, where like two people can somehow on their own computers find out a shared secret together.
Cool.
Right.
But you have to do this continually kind of over time?
Exactly. So this is a state machine.
I see.
And in fact, there's like two state machines, one for signing, one for encrypting.
Okay.
And every group participant moves the state machine forward.
Interesting.
Synchronously at their own pace.
And so, okay.
And they will reach the same non-deterministic secret.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But so that means like if there's 5 people in a group chat,
Yeah.
they all need the same secret key, or is that?
They all, yes. This is no longer private public key, so to say.
It's symmetric encryption is what they call that. So everyone in the chat group is going to have the same encryption decryption key pair.
Yeah.
But that encryption decryption key pair is only valid for, let's say, like an hour.
Or a number of messages.
A number of messages. Yeah. Okay, so we send 15 messages back and forth, and then we're gonna, as a group, renegotiate what the new key is to keep chatting.
Exactly.
For the next 100 messages or whatever.
Yeah. And so this is what the Signal protocol or the Signal app that we all use for
messaging app, right?
Exactly. In 2016, they came up with the Signal protocol.
Okay.
Which is a beautiful paper. You should all read it. It's really cool.
All right.
Fun fact.
Lots of reading homework from you. We've got like the IP paper and now a Signal one. Yes. Okay.
And fun fact is that the Wasabi 2.0 cryptography uses cryptography introduced in the Signal paper.
Oh, that's really interesting.
So that's why I ran deep on this paper and really fell in love with it. And you, because, hey, there's cool as fuck encryption in here that we can use for coin joins, completely unrelated.
Right. But it is a messaging protocol.
Yes. So like it's a long, like 60-page protocol. And we at Wasabi picked like one paragraph.
Okay,
like, well, that's a really cool paragraph. I'll take that.
That one, all right.
Yeah, Keith verified anonymous credentials, by the way.
Okay.
And so Signal, however, is kind of built for one centralized server.
Yes.
That manages your identity via a phone number.
Right, okay.
And that is used for message delivery, right?
Yes.
And they pay $50 million for their servers every year.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. I would rather pay developers rather than servers for this, right?
Interesting. You can get a lot of devs for $50 million.
A lot of devs for $50 million a year.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Yeah.
And so then came along a group of, it's like an industry working group, people from like Google, from IBM, from Jabber, from a bunch of universities got together and be like, hey, let's create a modern double ratchet protocol. It's very much inspired by the Signal protocol.
Okay.
That's even more scalable than Signal.
Okay.
And designable for and more modular, right? Like an actual internet standard.
Okay.
From the Internet Task Force or
IETF,
exactly.
Yeah. Internet Engineering Task Force.
Exactly. Yes. So that's called the Messaging Layer Security Protocol.
Okay.
MLS. It's the equivalent of TLS, the Transport Layer Security Protocol.
Interesting.
Right, so the HTTPS part, right, for
the
websites.
S is TLS, yeah.
Now we have the same for direct and group messages.
Oh, that's a really cool connection.
Yeah, so
okay.
this is shaping up to be the internet standard for secure messaging.
Okay.
And it's a 170-page protocol or specification.
That's a long specification.
It's a long specification.
So it's longer than the 60-page Signal paper.
It's way more convoluted.
Interesting.
And it's more scalable than Signal. And
trade-offs.
Trade-offs, yes. But the reason why it's more scalable, Bitcoiners will love this, is because of Merkle trees.
Oh, that is fun.
Obviously.
Oh, no way.
Right.
Okay, that is a fun fact.
Because in the Signal protocol, again, we have a shared secret for decrypting messages.
Yes.
But let's say if 10 people in a group have that same shared secret, and we want to kick out Tommy, right, then all the other 9 people have to do some magic to create a new shared secret.
Right.
So this is fine with 10 people. If we're getting to more than 1,000, 10,000, 1,000,000 people.
Okay, so really scaling.
So that's tough, right? So what we can do instead is that the shared secret, and I'm a bit summarizing on a very high level, it's probably wrong in detail, but the shared secret is the root of a Merkle tree, right? And then the users are nodes on the Merkle tree.
Got it.
Right? And so if we want to kick out Tommy, like here on this side of the tree, not everyone has to recompute, but we just have to recompute the
Everyone
path.
on the pathway.
Exactly.
So everyone who had a pathwise relationship to
Yes.
Tommy, for example.
And this gives us log n scaling.
That's
basically.
incredible.
Yeah.
Log in scaling in terms of adding and removing participants to the chat.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because otherwise, so like maybe let's just like briefly walk through. Okay, so without this, if there's like let's say 100 people in the chat, and we want to kick something out, all of a sudden, the 99 remaining people have to communicate amongst themselves, right?
Yeah.
So is that every 99 person needs to talk to each of the other 98?
Something like this. Yeah.
Okay, so that's, I don't know, that starts getting into like exponential amount of communication that has to happen around an action, the action being the expulsion of Tony or Tommy. Whereas if we use a Merkle style, I don't know, data structure for key management, now the number of people that need to communicate is limited to like log n of the number of people in the channel, right? And so that's a huge reduction in the amount of communication around actions that need to happen.
And so I heard the MLS guy say that, like, in theory, this can scale into the millions.
Oh, incredible.
Group, right?
I mean, imagining a 1,000,000-person group chat is a little horrifying from a like, consumer-producer perspective.
But also one thing is that when you have 2 phones, and the same user has the same account on 2 phones, in protocol world, this is 2 users, right?
Yes.
They each have their own set of private keys.
I see.
Right? And we just have a metadata layer that actually says, hey, these 2 key pairs are actually from the same user.
Oh, interesting.
So if you have multiple devices, like your phones, your laptops, right, that gives you more number of users in the protocol. Right, so
I see.
That makes the problem even a bit worse, because most people have
at least 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus your burner, I don't know.
Yeah. So this is a.
So are you project managing white noise now? Have you been pulled into? No, kidding.
Yeah, and a bunch more.
Okay, cool.
But
how's the documentation coming? Or you guys haven't shipped yet, so you don't
we
have
haven't shipped
users.
yet, actually. Yeah. So there is a open MLS implementation of the MLS spec in Rust.
Oh, okay.
Which is really cool. This is like the flagship implementation of like some graybeard wizards.
Right. So along with the specification, they wrote a reference implementation, perhaps.
Something like this.
Rust?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're using this.
Okay.
And then a lot of things are out of scope for MLS, specifically the identity layer and the message delivery layer. Right?
Does Nostr take care of that?
We figure it out exactly.
Okay.
So our main innovation here is to make a Nostr MLS wrapper around the Rust Nostr library, the Open MLS library, that basically says, hey, here's how you create a new account.
Cool.
Right. Here's how you deliver the messages.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And this Nostr MLS library recently got merged into Rust Nostr.
Oh, that's cool.
So that means Rust Nostr has now if you have Rust Nostr and OpenMLS as your dependency, you can from Rust Nostr be like, hey, create a new group, add this pub key to the group, right?
So is white noise like a new NIP? So we talked about like 4, 44, 17. Is this a new NIP number
This is
like
NIP 104?
NIP 104.
Yes.
Okay. And now if you're running Rust Nostr, you basically have access to an implementation of NIP 104, is that?
Yes, basically.
Okay.
I would say so.
Cool.
And so what we do is you have your NSEC, right?
Yeah, which
like
is your secret
main
key for
identity,
Nostr,
exactly. And a little bit similar to PGP, what we do now is we create a new set of private public keys.
Okay.
that you're going to use for the MLS encryption. Those are not Schnorr keys, by the way. They are, I forgot the curve, etc. But it's what OpenMLS uses for their key cipher suite.
It's a different curve. It's not SCCP256K1.
Exactly, yep.
Okay.
And you create a Nostr event with a specific kind number that says, hey, here is my MLS signing and encryption keys.
Oh, interesting.
And you sign this event with your npub, with your NSEC, and put that on relays, so that your friends see that, hey, the npubs that I'm following, they actually have MLS relevant keys. Right? And now people can invite you to a group to those new set of keys.
Cool.
Right? Meaning if your NSEC alone leaks, your MLS keys are not leaked.
Safe.
They are not deterministic.
Separated.
Right? They are randomly generated and only stored in one device or even in one client.
Oh, I see.
Right? So if we would have like white noise as one Nostr client, this has one set of key package, we call it, right? If you use Damos as your second client,
there's a separate app
would
on
have
the same phone.
Separate app on the same phone has a separate key package.
Oh, that's cool.
Right? And on other phones as well, or laptops or whatever, which is cool because in Signal, for example, you need to have a phone
Yes.
to create an account.
You need a phone number.
Right?
Yeah.
And the phone on the app. Even if you have a phone number, you cannot create a new Signal account on the laptop.
No, I've
Which
tried
is super
this.
annoying.
Yeah. I
Right?
recently was trying to set one up on an iPad for a specific thing.
Yeah.
And it would not let me. I had like a new phone number ready for it and everything, and it was like, no, it must be on a phone.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Quick aside and quick hack for Signal. You can use SMS for SAT, so one-time SMS code, right, as your NIM phone number. And then if you set inside the app, so you get the SMS 2FA code, you typed it in on account creation. And then if you set an SMS PIN inside Signal, that you need to type in a PIN whenever you would get a new account, and you make a database backup of your Signal keys, then you can move to a new phone without a second SMS 2FA. So you can use a burner SMS, a one-time SMS number, and have a long-lived multi-phone account, right? So that's just a quick hack.
But you have to set it up on a phone.
Yes, exactly.
So you almost need like that piece of hardware.
Yeah.
Specific hardware thing to
You could
do
probably do it in an emulator on the laptop, but nobody does that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, this is in part what we're trying to solve with MLS, that like laptops are first-class citizens, you know?
Right.
Browsers could be first-class citizens.
Right.
Yeah, and so then the idea is also to not just have white noise as an app that does this. This would just be a clone of Signal or something like this. That's boring. We want to fix Nostr direct messaging, and we want to have the interoperability of Nostr for direct messaging and group messaging.
So I could do direct messaging from Damus that reaches the white noise client.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we're using Telegram right now as the main chat application for people that have been to Bitcoin++. They're coming to one in the future. I'd really like to move off of Telegram.
Yeah.
We're on Telegram because it doesn't have this requirement that Signal has for Telegram. Well, it does, I think, to some extent.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it'd be really nice to move to something that doesn't quite have that requirement, and people could just give us an npub and join the conversation. So I'm very excited about white noise. I don't know. We're like for the Bitcoin++ side, we're planning on moving to it as soon as it's.
That's great to hear.
Maybe even beta, I don't know. But I feel like
don't move to it yet. We're still breaking changes left and right.
Whenever you get to the point where you're like, okay, we could. We'd like communities to try this out.
Yeah. No, the feedback is really cool from everyone, like both users and especially developers.
Right. I think it's a good ecosystem.
Yeah. So I'm going to put some public pressure on everyone so that they actually follow up on the promises they make in private.
Well.
but Damos wants to do it, Amethyst wants to do it, Primal wants to do it, Coracle wants to do it.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Shopster, all the Nostr marketplaces want to do it. It's like I'm really hoping that we have consensus on for direct and group messaging in MLS.
Because you guys did invent a new protocol for group messaging, basically. Not invent, but it's now we have a new NIP.
Yeah,
the thing.
Yeah,
like, we had 3.
We didn't roll our own crypto,
one, right?
So which is a
huge
big feature.
Advantage, yeah. And you solve group messaging. Like people can message each other in groups, which is new and exciting. But it does require adoption, I guess.
Exactly. But and so like to the feature set, like the cool thing is you can now put your messages not just on one server like Signal, you can put it on 3 servers at the same time.
They get redundant.
It makes it redundant, it makes it censorship resistant, right? And it makes it scalable because you can run a dedicated server for just one group.
Right.
right? And say, hey, only this group can write messages here.
I see. But you
so
could have them backed up or sent to other
exactly, yeah.
places.
But like, we don't need to have this one massive server for the entire world that costs
I
50
see.
million bucks a year.
I see what you're saying.
Right.
Okay. Not every, and you could have it
We'll have thousands of them.
geolocated in different places.
Exactly.
That kind of thing. That's
Exactly.
Cool. So
yeah.
here's like, so one thing we're going to need for that we currently have in Telegram, and maybe this is too much of a product. We can maybe talk about this later. It's too specific, but Telegram has the way to have like kind of almost channels inside of a group. Is that on your roadmap?
Yes.
Okay.
The really cool thing about this whole Nostr MLS thing is that we use MLS just for the encryption layer, right?
Yes.
What we encrypt
Oh, I see.
is totally up to us.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And so we can use it for messages, which is just a NIP, right? A NIP, a kind number. We can use it literally for any Nostr kind.
Oh, wow.
So we can do reactions, replies, zaps, short posts, long posts, marketplace offerings, software releases.
Interesting.
Whatever you want to put inside the layer of encryption, you can do. So this is like my kind of dream use case of this that's not chat messaging is I want to have a feed of my short posts on Nostr that I only send to the people whom I follow.
Oh, I see.
Right, so I'm creating a new group with all the keys of the people that I follow, right, the people that I trust to read my messages.
Interesting.
And
so you choose that group, basically.
Exactly, I'm the admin of the group, right? I can kick people in and out, right? And it's super scalable, so whenever I click follow, it's just a quick thing in the background. It's not this like huge thing that needs to be done.
Oh, that's cool.
It scales to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people.
So you can follow lots of people, and only the people that you choose, basally, then can see what you're saying.
Yes, yes.
Incredible. Okay.
Yeah,
I hope
yeah.
you follow me. No, I'm kidding.
You know, and this is like, sure, a lot of posts you want to have public, but like, for example, I would love to actually share like the like where I'm going to travel to in the future.
Yes.
But I really don't want this to be public.
No, but
like,
you want your
that's
friends to
scary.
know.
I want my friends to know.
Right, because you want to meet your friends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So for cases like this, where I do want to reach a large number, but I do want to take some
not
steps
public.
to make it more secure.
Yeah,
right?
and I mean, the amazing thing about this to me is there's no central service that you have to like send that message to.
Yeah.
Which I guess, like with Signal messaging, you could have a private; they could only see the metadata, etc. But now you don't even have to share that with Signal, for example.
Yeah, you can just put it on your own server.
Exactly.
Give access right to that relay to only your friends.
Right.
And that like keeps adding layers of protection.
That's really cool.
The cool thing with MLS, what it actually results into, the relay only sees, hey, an encrypted message got added, and there is a random tag for a group ID. That's all that it sees. It doesn't know who sent the message. It doesn't know what's the metadata of the group. It doesn't know how many people are in that group. Is this just one person making a note to self?
Interesting.
Is it a 2-person DM? Is it 100 people in a group?
Right.
Who exactly is in that group?
Right.
Right? All of this is completely hidden.
Interesting.
It's literally encrypted ciphertext blob with a nonce ID. And you can have the same group, can have like 5 different IDs, nonce IDs, and on client side we just reconcile it. Right?
Cool.
So it's like it's totally blinded what the relay can see. Which
That's
is
cool.
so cool.
That's really interesting. Wow.
I'm so bullish
So
on
when
MLS.
can people get their hands on this? You're doing user testing here in Oslo.
Yeah.
So I got to see a beta version of the app, which it sounds like there's lots of changes coming in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Do you guys have like if people want to follow along, find out more about the project, what's a good place for people to go or hang out, or is it follow you on Nostr? You'll be posting updates there for everyone to see, I hope. No.
Basically,
Yeah.
we do have some Nostr pub keys already created, but not really posting on them on yet.
Oh,
It's
I see. Okay.
a little bit stealthy.
So we're still underground. Cool.
We're still underground. Like,
think-
don't tell your
Yeah,
friends.
yeah. I think Jeff's going to be coming to Bitcoin Privacy Edition in Riga, I think, hopefully, to talk about white noise. So if you want to get involved in the project, he actually got his first new contributors, just to like brag a little bit,
Actually.
at Bitcoin in Brazil in February. And so now there's a whole team working on it.
Yeah. And they added Nostr Wallet Connect, so now we can send zaps
That's really
left
cool.
and right inside our chat apps.
That's
right?
so cool. That's really
And
fun.
like, I wanted to have Bitcoin in Signal for so many years.
With
I
it.
wrote them emails. They did not listen. They created their own.
Now you're project
mobile
managing
coin or
the
whatever.
app that's going to replace Signal. Don't tell Signal.
I don't even want to replace Signal. I just want to replace the shitty DMs we have in Nostr now.
That's
Signal's
fair.
totally fine.
Yeah.
It's a super great project. I love them so much. The Signal protocol is amazing, right?
Pioneers in the space, for
They
sure.
totally are, right? Groundbreaking shit. They're awesome. we can do even better, which is great,
Yeah.
right? Hopefully, they're gonna jump on the MLS bandwagon too. Hopefully, they would be interoperable with the Nostr MLS part.
That would be really interesting.
That would be so sweet.
That would be really
right?
interesting.
Maybe we can even get WhatsApp on board. Who
Okay.
knows, right?
So maybe these are people we should reach out to. If you know anyone at Signal and invite them to Riga,
Ooh,
we could get a whole little
That
group
would be
talking
cool.
about.
that would be cool.
Would be a cool idea. So
Maybe a BTC++ group messages edition.
there we go. Well, this is privacy edition.
It
so
is the
we'll
privacy
get,
edition.
like,
So
yeah. We can
it's
try
like
this
a-
one. Yeah.
side event at the event.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So hopefully you can join us. I don't know if it's on your schedule, but
Yeah.
and also anyone watching will be in Riga 7th and 8th of August, right ahead of Baltic Honey Badgers. So get your ticket, come show up. It'll be a great event.
Yeah. I can attest. BTC++ is really dope. It's a high signal, no bullshit builders event. It reminds me so much of the early Lightning Hack days,
Oh, cool.
which were like legendary.
Yeah,
you know.
I heard that.
So this keeps the vibe going. I was super sad that Lightning Hack days are just not a thing anymore.
We're going to be doing our first
be more.
Lightning conference for Bitcoin in Berlin in October.
You've never done a BTC++ Lightning edition?
No, this is Lightning the first Lightning
Wow.
We did a payments edition that had
Yeah.
mostly Lightning talks in
Yeah,
Argentina
okay.
last year.
Yeah.
But I've never done one. Surprising. I guess it's surprising
That's
because I do
super
so much
surprising.
Lightning stuff. I feel like my problem with like stuff is that like I know so much about Lightning
Yeah.
that it's not as interesting. And I go to like Lightning events, like spec meetings that are more closed.
Yeah.
So that's like less interesting to me to like get people together because I already see all of them personally.
Yeah.
And so the themes that I tend to pick are like ones that I don't
Yeah.
see the people in as much. Same like how Bitcoin Base 58, like the education project is all about like on-chain stuff and there's very little Lightning things, even though that's literally the thing I probably know more than most people about. It's just like maybe like not recency bias, but almost like familiarity bias. If the more familiar I am with it, the less likely I am to talk about it or create events for it.
Yeah. And it's like a good rule of thumb is to scratch your own itch.
Yeah,
You know,
that's true.
and I think that leads to a lot of cool software and conferences if you talk about stuff you really want to talk about.
Yeah, that's
Right?
true.
And so, but I mean, you do want to talk about Lightning. So it's not that the Lightning conference will be bad. I think it
But
would
if
be
it's
really
not
cool.
as interesting because there's definitely a lot of new stuff happening that I'm very excited to find out about at the Lightning event, but it does tend to be not as new
Yeah.
to me personally.
Yeah, cool.
So maybe that's
Yeah.
it's a me problem.
Yeah. No, but it's good. We need other conferences as well. So it's really cool how you've designed BTC++.
Yeah, thanks, Alex.
It's a really cool event. So come, stop by. It's worth it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Anything that we should finish up with or talk about, or anything else you want people to know about you or your projects or where to find you?
Work on Freedom Tech. I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are, or interview series. But keep going. It's really important stuff. Like, this is why I love the Oslo Freedom Forum.
Yeah.
Because it's like such a gut punch that you realize like, hey, this tech is like needed for the life of people. Like if we make mistakes, if we don't build fast enough, then people die. And like, that's insane.
If we don't build fast enough, people die.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucking
Well, I
insane.
mean, I think the thing is people already dying is like
Yeah.
the sad thing.
And like
it's-
the faster we can build, the more literal lives we can save.
right.
Like, holy shit.
It's heavy.
So we're not fast enough. We need to like triple down.
That's, you say that, but then it's also like we're moving in that direction maybe finally. It's like maybe we've been headed this direction for a long time, but it finally feels like maybe a solution is like within reach, maybe.
It is.
Maybe.
And like we've made so much progress in the last 5-10 years.
Right.
It's unreal. Like, look where Lightning was 5 years ago, where CoinJoin
It's
was last
insane.
years ago.
It's so insane.
It's like
Yeah.
we've solved so many groundbreaking, huge problems that really needed to be solved. Like,
Right.
we have scalable payments now.
Yeah.
We made like 5 million zaps on Nostr.
Yeah.
Like, and none of them touched the blockchain.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, that's incredible.
I know.
right?
Everyone's like the blocks are empty, and I'm like, maybe that's a signal
That's a
that
good thing.
Lightning did
We
scale
actually-
Bitcoin.
we did it,
But that's the thing is like people make the joke like I won't tell you when I've made it, but there will be signs. It's like are empty block signs that like that Bitcoin is scaled through layer 2s?
Yeah.
Open question, but
Open question. It didn't scale enough, right? We're not yet 100 billion users.
that's true.
So we gotta get to that scale.
That's
we
true.
will, we're not yet there, right?
But people are using it
People are using
daily.
it, right?
Bitcoin is being transacted with daily.
Exactly.
All
right.
around the globe.
Like,
which is
I think we've
insane.
almost perfectly solved blockchain layer privacy. Like, I can send you Bitcoin on chain without ever learning what your address is.
Right.
That's insane.
That is
right?
insane.
So like that level of on-chain privacy is there, right?
So are you gonna be in Riga talking, or
Probably.
go hang out? Yeah.
Hang out. You know, now with MLS, I'm so bullish that I really think we have like messaging solved,
It's
which
insane.
is another
That's
huge
an insane thought.
thing, right?
Because I mean, like the way you're talking about it, it's like, okay, this is like, and I know we're like trying to wrap whatever, but like it's okay. The way that you put it, like this is TLS for messaging.
Yeah.
And you're like, the message that we put in it can be any message.
Yeah.
Any message that you want.
Yeah.
That's insane.
That's insane.
It's like you can build apps now.
So
that
much.
Like, it's
Yeah.
like, and it's like we're like reinventing whatever the HTTP thing is doing. But we're doing it with public-private key encryption instead of the hierarchical signed search stuff that TLS is built on.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, like this isn't just about talking to other people. This is like application level.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Stuff. Like, what does it mean for like me to like have some sort of like teaching classes or something, or like, I don't know. Yeah.
And that's also the cool thing is it's now a library. It's a protocol.
Right.
It's not just an app like Signal or WhatsApp. If you're a dev and you want to have secure messaging, you just build it now and you ship a software. The first user comes and he can talk to his friends.
Yeah.
Because his friends are on another app that supports the standard.
Right.
That's like, oh my God.
It's
like,
insane. It's power of standards.
Yeah, we will now have thousands, tens of thousands of applications that we can build that all interoperate with each other.
Right. So maybe this is like the
huge.
hackathon in Riga, as we see who can build the best MLS app or something.
That would be
Yeah,
cool.
that would be cool.
Yeah.
So if you're out there and you want to fund the development of more projects, we always do bounties for challenges at hackathons at Bitcoin++. I'm always looking for people that want to help put sats to make those projects or incentivize devs to build on those platforms, etc. So if this is something you're really excited about, maybe you're not a dev, but you want to put some sats up to encourage devs to build on it, get in touch with me about how we can make some really great challenges around MLS. Because it's already shipped in the library, right? Like it's in the rest.
It's in Nostr MLS.
Yeah.
So there's two libraries you need: OpenMLS, Rust Nostr.
Yeah.
Then you can build stuff.
Sounds great.
Yeah,
Cool.
we're gonna do bindings in all the languages. We're maybe gonna do a TypeScript implementation of the MLS protocol.
Interesting. Well, you guys have until August to finish it. August 7th. I need these tools for my hackathon. Or maybe people at the hackathon can work on it. So
maybe.
If you're interested in this stuff, come to the conference and we will put you to work, it sounds like.
So pick up shovels, start building freedom tech.
There you go.
The world needs you, and ship cool stuff.
It's happening.
Come to conferences, hang out. It will be fun.
Thanks, Max.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.